All right. What's the next pillar?
Next one's mental. So this is huge, and I think this is massive, especially now during COVID. It was funny. So when the Singapore lockdown, I came home, and obviously my missus was pissed because of the gym. But for my natural instinct of challenge is to rise to challenge. I've been like that since I was a rugby player, and that's not me being a Bertie Big Dick. That's me being that I prefer being under pressure. It doesn't matter it's as if you text me saying, Will, I want this in by next week. I'll do it by the day before. That's pressure to me. But in this environment, similar to what you did, man, is like, you know full well you've got so much you could do in lockdown, and it's a negative, but you're going to make this negative a positive. And from a mental standpoint, your value systems are all based around what's literally in between your ears, whether you've got a growth mindset, whether you can actually get yourself out of a negative situation, and secondly, if you can actually be kind to yourself when you are in a bad situation, not to keep fucking yourself up. That's what is huge at the moment, is you just see people in a downward spiral of bullshit because they're just dragging themselves through the mud for no reason.
They don't know how to hit the brakes, man.
Yeah, literally.
Because, your mindset is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like if you allow yourself to, if you're looking for shit, you're going to find it. And the more you're looking for it, the more you're going to find, right? So that creates his fucking avalanche, man. So I'm a big believer in like always trying to find the positives, bro. I recorded a podcast, I think it was like within a week of New Year's. I can't remember if it was the end of last year or the start of this year, but it was reflect to project. And a big point that I was talking about there is like, obviously 2020 has been a bad year for a lot of people and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I actually had a lot of fucking growth. I started this podcast. I've now got, 110 odd episodes out and roughly 27,000 downloads, man. And I'm actually coming up to almost a year, bro, of podcasting, which is on 24th of May has been a year, bro, of podcasting. So it's been really cool. But, I was also focusing on, study. I was studying my anatomy and physiology. I was studying Thai. I was studying blah, blah, blah. I was working on all of these things. And in that podcast, I was talking about, I didn't have the best year. Like I lost one of my mates to suicide. I lost one of my rugby coaches who was a massive mentor for me when I left home at 14 and was, learning how to play rugby. And I had this rugby team around me that were all adults, and I'm like 16, 17 playing with the adults. He was a massive mentor for me, man, that had a huge impact on my life. I lost him last year, my pops going down here with Alzheimer's, and, I had heaps of shit go on. But I always look back and I'm like, I'm grateful. I'm not grateful that my mate died, took his own life, but I'm grateful that, he finally found peace. And I'm grateful that, once he passed, it came out that he'd actually helped about 20 other dudes, man. There wasn't any names or anything, but apparently he'd helped like 20 other dudes come back from the cliff, sort their shit out, get their life back on track, man. And, we wouldn't have known that if he hadn't have taken his own life. And I was like, I messaged one of his best mates, man. And I'm like, dude, I'm so fucking sorry to hear. I just hope that he found peace in his final breaths. And he was like, I tell you right now, brother, he did. He was at peace, man. So
deep,
there's always, bro, there's always positives to take out of anything in life, man. You've just got to fucking look for them, and you've also got to reframe. I think that's a very important thing because, as you said, bro, this all happens between the ears, right? Like your biochemistry affects your emotions, and your emotions affect your physiology, right? And then which affects your hormones, and like it's a fucking self-fulfilling prophecy, man. And if you're spiraling and you've got these negative thoughts constantly in your head, it's very difficult to put the brakes on. It's much easier to build momentum, it's much easier to maintain momentum than it is to build it. But once you start building momentum, either in a positive manner or in a negative manner, like it's very difficult to turn that around. So I'm a big believer in always trying to put a positive spin on something so that you can move yourself in the right direction, reframing things. And we've spoken about this before, NLP, right? The neuro-linguistic programming. It's like how you speak to yourself is going to determine how you react, how you respond to certain things.
Absolutely, man. It's something that, I'll push a question to you. It's not my podcast, but I'm going to question you, brother.
Of course, bro.
Where did you first learn that? Because you're older than me. You look a lot younger than me, and you're better looking than me, but you're fucking older than me. But more to the point of, where did you? Because it seems as if, like, again, from the outside world, there's so many people that are affected from the military, especially, and in your job, like high pressure job. You're like the professional rugby player of the military. Where did you first learn? Because there must have been times. I've read out Middleton's book about how he's a fucking nutter when he was younger, and now he's so cool and collected. It'd be interesting to hear your side of where you found that moment of. It's not just the growth mindset, because I think it's more than that. It's sort of what is there anything particular that you sort of clung on to that sort of taught you that narrative, or?
I think it's life, bro. Life has been the biggest teacher for me. You know, I came from a poor family. My stepdad was abusive. I left home when I was 14. You know, I had to go and forge my own path. And that's because, like, I didn't want those traits, those characters, the character traits that my stepdad had to bleed over into my life. And I knew that the environment that I was in was not serving me, man. And whilst it was fucking scary to go, you know what, I'm going to leave home. I don't want to be here. You know, I was getting caught up with the wrong crowd or stealing and doing drugs and shit. And I was like, you know, if I continue down this path, it's not going to be a good place. So whilst it was scary to go, you know what, I'm going to leave here at 14. I'm going to leave home at 14 years old. I'm going to move to another state. I'm going to leave school, leave my family, leave my friends. I'm going to go and start working, get into the workforce, man. Like, I was more afraid of staying where I was and what was going to happen with my life if I didn't change anything than I was walking out into the big, wide, open world, you know? So having that mindset of taking chances and going, I'm not happy with where I am right now. I need to make a decision, because not making a decision is a decision in itself, right? So, you know, I had numerous like big moments in my life, big, massive crossroads where I had to make a big decision. And, you know, for the most part, man, I took that step. I made that jump, and that's how I ended up in Thailand, bro. I walked away from a relationship with a girl that I loved and cared about because I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted living in Tasmania. I wanted to work with professional athletes, you know, but I'd already gone through all of these monumental decisions in my life that had always worked out. Now, the reason they'd worked out is probably because I was like, I'm just going to make this decision. I'm going to fucking follow through with it. And I'm going to do the best I can to put myself in a fucking good position to take hold of any opportunities that come up. So I think that's a big thing. And that's something that I've learned over time, man.
Yeah. I think it comes across. I've had this with a lot. I've asked a lot of my clients who are high-level CEOs. I've got one guy who's doing all the COVID tests globally. Like, he's the head of Roche Asia. The guy, and you meet him, you'd never believe it. He's a bum. Like, he's a legend. And I said to him, how does he deal with his job? Because the guy's up to 1 a.m. talking to 6,000 people. He's that sort of guy. And he would say it's all hardship. He's a brickie. He built houses when he was a kid. Another guy who I worked with is a head of a bank. He's a farmer, and he comes from nothing. Like, I think something that's big for me is people they're scared of having a tough time. But it's through the tough times is which you learn the most. I from personal experience as well. Similarly, I didn't leave home at 40. I left home at 60 just to get out of to get out of London. But I learned so much more from being challenged and challenging myself to go, what if I could do more, than just sat there being scared, being sat there, oh, that's going to be safe. Safe's fucking boring, man. And if you stay there all your life and just think you're going to be happy, you're going to be safe all the time, you're going to go nowhere. And I think that's a huge part of listening to you. And that's why I love speaking to you. It's just because there's such a real, we just got to make shit happen. There's no excuse. I've never done a podcast before, but fuck it, are you going to make it? Not worrying about whatever. You just got it done. And I think that's what people should take from this as well, is that is hugely important.
Yeah. The thing is, man, like, most people need to have all of the answers before they do anything. And it kind of ties back into what we were talking about earlier, where you're like ticking off the courses, tick, 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 tick. But are you actually applying that shit? You know?
Yeah.
Whereas people that have faced hardship, they have faced adversity, they're like, well, this is the situation that I've been in before. I've got a choice. Do I want to stay in that environment, or do I want to step out and try and create a better environment for myself? And they don't have all the fucking answers, right? They just get out there. They know that where they're at right now is not where they want to be. They want to be somewhere else. All right, I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other. I'm going to figure this shit out on the way. And that's exactly what I've done my entire fucking life, man. And it's something that's continued to serve me. And again, going back to when I was in the military, being in Afghanistan, mate, like, out on patrol 2 weeks into the trip, my sniper team leader was fucking shot. Our team being ambushed, ended up sitting on top of an IED, luckily didn't go off, take out the rest of our team. The next day, out on patrol, burst of machine gun fire goes between my mate and I. I was like, holy fuck, this is going to be a long trip, man. But that was 2 weeks into a 9-month deployment. I had to manage my mind. I had to build that mental resilience, bro, and I had to figure out ways that was going to allow me to get to sleep at night, wake up in the morning on the front foot, knowing that we're going to a fucking bad area, and every time we go there, shit always happens. So, being proactive rather than reactive, and this is where the mindfulness stuff started coming into play. I literally just started counting my breaths, man. I was like, I need to get to sleep. I'm waking up fucking tired. I'm waking up fatigued. I'm going to end up being a liability, and if I miss something, bloke behind me steps on IED, loses his leg, loses his life, gets shot in the fucking chest. Like, that's on my conscience for the rest of my life. So I just started counting my breathing, bro. And that, just counting my breaths and like not attaching meaning to the different and emotions to the different thoughts that were coming up in my mind allowed me to get to sleep, one. But two, the byproduct of that was then I started focusing on the controllables. What can I control? We know we're going to this area tomorrow. We know it's the Badlands. We know every time we go there, something happens. If this happens, we're going to do that. These are our SOPs. If that happens, we're going to do this. We're looking at our actions we're making sure that our fucking plan to go into that area the next day is mitigating as many risks as we can before we step out. And that gave peace of mind, and that bled over into, everything else in my life, man. I'm not afraid of taking risks. I'm not afraid of, jumping out and starting something that I, may not have all the answers to. But I know that if I'm making that decision, again, intent, I'm making that decision with intent. Then I'll figure out the tools, I'll figure out the principles, I'll figure out what needs to be done along the way. And I'm not looking to have all the answers all the time. It's like, right, this is the problem that's come up. What's the solution that I need to find? All right, cool, smooth sailing. Something else comes up. All right, I need to find a solution for this as well. And that's where the lessons are, bro. The lessons are in the fucking journey. People that don't make big decisions, people that don't put themselves through hardship, people that don't step out of their comfort zone, never learn those lessons. And they always find themselves in a perpetual state of comfort, and they never fucking grow, and they never achieve anything.
100%, man. That literally sums it up.